And welcome to another episode of the Michigan Sports Truth Podcast. I'm Taylor Phillips. He's Ed Smith. Just got three teams to talk about tonight. Ed Smith, welcome back.
Pleasure to be back on, Taylor. I had been dealing for the past week or so a little bit of bout of a bronchitis flare up. It's something that I usually deal with about once a year or so, but it's nothing too serious, nothing too major. Everything's practically cleared up now, and I'm just ready to get back to the road.
All right. Let's do it. All right. So the Red Wings, they're slipping. They've lost three straight. In their 4-0 game, 4-0 loss to the Florida Panthers at home, they lose their captain, Dylan Larkin, to a lower body injury. He's going to be out about 2 weeks. But they played without Dylan Larkin before. They haven't lost every. They can't lose every game without him. But their defense, with or without Dylan Larkin, even though if they played with Dylan Larkin against the Islanders, when they played down in a game where they played down to competition. But Dylan Larkin has been very vital to the team. That's why he's the captain and such. But the Red Wings are still in it. I'll fix the background echo. I don't hear anything, but
Well, I'm hearing I don't know if you have something like a tab on your, or you got like a computer or something on um where our streaming is playing in the background. Do you have something that's on like that?
no, I just have my headphones connected to the speaker or
That's
just
weird.
wire. I don't hear
Okay.
anything.
Okay, maybe so. I don't know. Maybe you have something that's playing on your screen. Either way, maybe you got to mute it or something. I don't know, but
Wait, it's not. Oh yeah, my phone. That's right. Now I have it
yeah,
muted. My
yeah,
apologies.
that's no problem. But anyway, back on topic. Yes, it is true that they've been able to go through stretches of the season before where they played without Dylan Larkin, and while it's not, they haven't been quite terrible. It's not like they've been setting the world on fire either. And the timing of this is quite significant, I think, in my opinion, because it's now during a stretch where the team has been cooling off. They did have the 5-6 game winning streak that had been going on. You saw it where they were getting comeback wins in overtime, just racking momentum after momentum. Now all of a sudden they're in this 3 games. You know, they're in this 3 game bump. Now some will say, "Oh, this is what they get for putting the patch sponsorship patch on their jerseys." I'm like, stop it, people. There's things happen. There's peaks and valleys over the course of an 82 game season. This is just one of the valleys. We just came off of a peak, so what comes after a peak naturally is a valley. It's inconvenient, but still, let's look at the fact that um, unfortunately, the game against the Islanders, I would say it was a trap game in every sense of the word, because it was after, you know, um, them conducting another win. It was such emphatic fashion, comeback fashion, and they try to do another comeback attempt because they've had, I believe, 11 or so wins um, after coming back from a goal deficit in the third period. They tried to come back. They tied the game up at one point, but just for lack of a better term, they collapsed in the third period. Something we haven't seen from them in a while. Lack of defense, just being overwhelmed in general, which is something that again we had not seen from a while. Other teams do to the Red Wings. Normally, we've seen them be the aggressors with how they've been able to create such an offensive or an explosive uh, explosion in production of their offense. But now, as we see, the tables have been turned on them. We're seeing how they're trying to react and maneuver around that, and so far it hasn't worked out quite well. Um, you can, let's not, whether the fact that they got shut out against the Panthers, I can forgive that to an extent, because you got to remember this is what the team that was the best, that is the division leader, one of the best teams in the league.
The not so Atlantic Division.
Correct. But
But anyway, seriousness.
let's take into consideration that the Red Wings, throughout their stellar play as of late, they have made their own crawl, not just up the wild card standings, where they currently are. are in possession of the top wild card spot, but they also have been moving up in the Atlantic Division as well, even to a point where they've tied. And based on where the stands I see are currently at, they've even passed the Lightning in terms of standings. So that even in terms of both the Atlantic Division and in the wild card standing, the Red Wings and the Lightning had the same amount of points, 72, and it's still a comfortable margin had up ahead of anyone else that's behind them for those two spots. But
Well,
of
it's
course,
only 4 points up on the Islanders,
four points
the
on the
aforementioned
Islanders.
Islanders.
Yes, but I think at this point, you have somewhat of a cushion to where, you know, there's an important stretch of the season coming out. You know you're going to be out without your captain. But let's not also consider the fact that you're not exactly a team full of slouches. You see what Dylan Larkin, excuse me, what Patrick Kane has done, what Alex DeBrincat has done, Lucas Raymond. The list goes on and on of players that have been stepped up with their production this year, and it just comes down to a matter of establishing establishing your game plan and tone right from the get-go of what you want to do instead of letting the other team dictate and overwhelm you. That's what led to situations to where you would get shut out by the Panthers or you give up 6 straight goals against the Avs. So once you set and dictate the tone from the beginning to anything that makes the flow much more easier to control and leads to better scoring opportunities, and put your goaltender in a position to where if he has to carry or stand on his head for all night, he'll have to do that. Alex Lyon has been a tremendous discovery, but you got to know that he can't be, the guy doing everything by himself on those nights. It's going to take a collateral effort on all accounts. Now, the fact that the trade deadline is tomorrow, I believe. Eisman has got to be looking, I would think, to be buying. We remember last year what happened with the debacle against the Senators when they were positioned to make a playoff run. They got blown out. They decided to become sellers. And I think, frankly, it worked out for the better based on what they were getting in return and what they've used that as leverage since then. Now, where they are in a position, in my opinion, to be buyers. Now, what could they be buyers for? I would say look for help in terms of depth at the forward spot. Looking for another defenseman or so will be another possibility because you have got to shore up your defense. Your defense has been your Achilles heel all season, and it's been starting to slowly expose itself once again here as of late. So that should be the areas of concern I would be targeting if I was Steve Yzerman. But that being said, things are bumpy now, but I still say with what's in place now currently and knowing that that Larkin's only going to be out for a limited amount of time, you'll still be able to get him back before the season ends. The Red Wings are still in a good spot to where, as long as they don't completely crap the bed, they should be in a good spot to take one of those wild card spots and make the playoffs.
They better not. But they have to hang in there. And Steve Yzerman has to do something like tomorrow because he hasn't done diddly squat as of this point. But we're going to keep our eyes open.
To be fair, he's done more of his work in the off season, but I do agree that I think he has to. I want to at least see some type of news or movement of, even if you didn't get the player that you want, to show that you're at least trying, that you weren't standing pat, that you were showing, hey, we have an effort to buy in on a player or two to get where we want to go for this season. I would like to see that to some level for tomorrow.
Yeah. So the Red Wings, like we mentioned before, have 72 points along with the Tampa Bay Lightning. The Red Wings hold the tiebreaker at 33. Let me hide this for a second. What the heck is going on here? There's no. Wait, cancel. Wait. Anyway, stupid computer being a little slow tonight, but now it's caught up. Right. 33, 23, and 6. 72 points, 58 games played. In the fourth place in the not-so-Atlantic division, the messed-up division. Still first place in the Eastern Conference wild card spot. The Lightning lost to the Calgary Flames at home 6-3 in Tampa in St. Petersburg at Amalie Arena. The Lightning are 33, 25, and 6. The Bolts have 2 more regulation losses than the Red Wings have. So both teams have 6 overtime losses and 33 wins each. Just the regulation loss is the only difference in favor of the Red Wings.
And don't they have at least one more matchup with each other before the season ends?
Oh, the Laning. Let me take a look at that schedule.
You would think
Schedule.
you would think, especially they're in the same division.
That's got to be in April, to be honest.
Yeah, I
If
would think
that.
so.
Yep. In Tampa, Monday, April 1st, April Fools at
Oh,
7
lovely.
at Amalie Arena.
So, and remember, a lot could change between now and that date for sure. In terms of parameters of what the wild card standings will look like, what each team is gonna look like after the deadline, and I would assume by then Dylan Larkin would be back into the fold as well.
Yeah. Yeah, that's on April 1st. And that's on Valley Sports Detroit Extra, particularly.
I
The
wonder when they're,
Pistons.
I wonder when they're going to call up Edvinson
I don't know.
because I
I'll
think
keep our eyes open for that one, too.
he could be a potential help on in terms of taking pressure off of Sider. Because Sider has
Yeah.
had a bit of a regression with his defense this year, to say the
Wow.
least.
Yeah. 17 peak live viewers thus far on this episode. Wowzers. We're breaking records here, Ed. The Pistons, 10-52 after their 118-112 win at home at Little Caesars Arena over the Brooklyn Nets. I know they're 10-52, still one of the worst records in the NBA, but if not the worst. The Wizards are 9-52 or 9-53. They just lost recently. So the Pistons have a 1-game advantage over the Wizards for 14th place in the Eastern Conference. But let's touch on something here. The Pistons have limited 6 opponents under 113 points in their last 7 games, including the Nets. They finally picked up their 10th win of the year.
It shows a testament of some sort of progress. It shows that they are at least trying to buy in to some element of what Monty Williams wants them to do, at least on the defensive side of things. Because, like you mentioned, 6 of their last 7, they've held opponents under 113 points. That's not an easy feat to do in this league. And the only reason why it was 6 out of 7 is because the team that gotten more than that was the Miami Heat, who of course have Jimmy Butler, who is known to go off, especially in the fourth quarter. There's a reason why he's called Jimmy Buckets. We saw that against the Pistons the other night. That's the reason why they fell to Miami 118-110. That being said, I think tonight was a good sign, was a needed sign, because they've been through a lot in just this past week or so. Whether it be the heartbreaking last-second game-winning loss to the Magic, where, in my opinion, it looked like Paulo Banchero had traveled on the play, where he had eventually had been fouled by Jalen Duren with the and one that was the game winner. But again, that was a minor footnote compared to what we saw in Madison Square Garden against the Knicks, where after a wild scramble near the end of the game, the team both I think the Pistons had a 1-point lead or so. They got the rebound. It looks like there's a wild loose scramble for the ball. Asar Thompson has the ball in his possession, it seemed, and Dante DiVincenzo clearly and in front of the referee all but damn near tackles Asar Thompson to the ground, dives right at his legs,
Flagrant
makes obvious contact. Should have been a clear as day foul. Yet nothing was called. The Knicks get the ball, then they score, and boom, they win. So it even got to the point where Monty Williams was pissed in his post-game presser. But guess what? I hate to break it to you, Monty. When you are a team that went 2-28, 202-29, or whatever, had the 28-game losing streak tied for the most of worst of all time in that regard. When you're a team that's been playing like that all year and has a record like that all year and has been seen as a national embarrassment, as a punchline, you're not going to get those kind of calls. I'm sorry, but you're not. It's just like what the Lions have had to endure over the past few decades or so. Because of your reputation, you're not going to get those kind of calls.
Karma's a bitch.
But they've got to find a way to move past that and not let it affect them to where it becomes detrimental to what they're trying to do for the rest of the season. And so far, I think they've not let it affect them to that degree. Because, like you said, let's not forget they got the win against the Bulls as well before this, and they've also because that had snapped the previous 6 game losing streak as well. And so now with this win here tonight against the Nets, they have officially have had the record set up. Well, their record as it currently states, to where even if they lost the rest of the games, it would still not be seen as the worst record of all time in the in the one season for the history of the NBA. I believe that distinction either goes to, I want to say the 2011-12 Bobcats, or maybe the Sixers in one of those early Sam Hinkie trust the process years before they got Joel Embiid. I can't remember what year it was, but it was either one of those Sixers teams or it's definitely the 2011-12 Bobcats with Michael Jordan as the owner. So luckily for the Pistons, despite their historical ineptitude, they weren't that inept to set that kind of record. Now, what this means for them in the draft lottery, who knows? Because let's not forget they had the worst overall record last year, and yet they got screwed in the lottery. So frankly, at this point, I don't know what the hell's gonna happen with that lottery and who we
That
even
proves why tanking's not going to help.
exactly.
I'm gonna say the same thing to Chris Pame here. I know winning the NBA lottery could be helpful. Well, I mean, they get, even if they don't finish with the worst record, they could still win. They could still win. Take 2021 for example, when they took Kate Cunningham for example. But really, but even that couldn't help. But unless but it
Let me
might
point it
take
out. Like,
time.
there it is. It comes down to, unless Monty Williams truly wants to listen to his players and let them develop the way that they have to develop and put in the right players when necessary. And that's, like for example, like we was trying the stupid shit for this year of starting Killian Hayes over Jaden Ivey for the majority of the season before they finally waived Killian's worthless ass. That kind of thing. Once he stops doing stupid stuff like that and actually lets these dudes play together, like you get more. I think you'll eventually get more consistent results of what you saw tonight. Like for example, Cade Cunningham and Jaden Ivey both going off with 30+ points, both being leading productive um, offensive leaders, both in terms of points and assists and rebounds. And especially in the case of Jaden Ivey, he went 6 of 9 from three. Cade, as we've seen, has improved his own numbers from three this season,
Lights
despite
out, baby.
right, despite what everything else that's been going on around him, despite the fact that he's been injured a couple of times. Add into the fact that you have Asar Thompson doing what he's been doing on the defensive side of things, and Jalen Duren being our big man rim protector. That's our core four. That is the core four that has been identified as the same core four that I mentioned to you that was listed as their untradables, their untouchables during the trade deadline process, and it's for a reason. You're seeing that with the stat lines that they've shown here tonight and what they can continue to contribute if you build around them. They need shooters, they need better defenders, and also they need better trust from their coaches to say, hey, we get that this is a system that you're trying to run or set up, but this is how we do our thing, and this is how we do well with our thing. Let's try to compromise, blend it together, and win some more games. That should be the message. Because guess what? You're paying Monty Williams all this damn money. There's as much as you would love to see, you wonder, hey, should he be fired after one season? I doubt Tom Gores is going to do that. Not after 1 year. He's going to give Monty as much of a chance as he can possibly give. And I would say in that case, let's see what transpires in this offseason in terms of the players and the coach coming together, finding common ground. That to me is much more important than any free agent you sign, any contract that you spend money on, or even what draft pick you get or what slot you are in the lottery. That to me is the most important aspect that is facing this team for this upcoming offseason.
True,
You know,
true.
who knows?
Because
Maybe they'll learn from they'll take advice and learn well from guys like Taj Gibson, who they just signed to a 10-day contract. He's been in the league for about 15 years or so. He's seen and been with and played with the best of the best. He can be that mentor, that presence for some of these young players, particularly some of the bigs, like Wiseman, like Duran, for example. I don't know if this is going to lead to him getting any another 10-day contract or more extended time with the team, but he has stated that he likes this organization, he likes his team, he likes the young players on his team, and he wants to be around them to help them grow and develop. So we'll see what happens after his contract expires. But again, that speaks to a level, to another aspect of what I've been the overall arching theme. There must be a connection and common ground in this offseason between the players and the coaches. It's that simple.
Yeah. Otherwise, it'll fall on Tom Gores because,
And we've seen before how that's worked out in the past.
yep. And but that 10th win just makes urinating trees latest Pistons video already outdated. But it's still a race. It's still for the first overall pick going into the lottery, but who knows?
I wouldn't call it outdated because the fact still remains that the Pistons are still an absolute dumpster fire tier in terms of what their standing is, and not just in the league, but also in this city. Because thankfully we're in a spot where, thank God, the Lions have had the season that they've had, and thank goodness that the Red Wings have been making their progress as well. We don't know what the Tigers are going to give us, but compared to what we've seen from the Pistons, we are much more happy and content and thankful that we've been able to get what we've gotten out of the Red Wings and especially the Lions.
Much happier indeed. Let's get to the Lions.
Speaking of,
yep. Let's dive into that cornerback position, and it's going to go through it's going to be addressed at the NFL draft. Start with at the top, Brad Holmes. So, who are your picks?
Well, we got to consider what led to this question to begin with, or this potential topic or being discussed. Why are we asking this question? Well, it's simple. The Lions have been making moves. They have just re-signed Emmanuel Mosley to a one-year deal. The terms of that deal were not disclosed. If you remember, he was brought in to the team last offseason. He had last played with the San Francisco 49ers. He had been recovering from a torn ACL in the 22-23 season, and in his season debut with the Lions this year, he tore his other ACL and was gone for the rest of the year. I believe it was in week 4 was when it happened. So he made his debut and season exit all in that same game. So bad luck for him for sure. But the Lions, particularly Brad Holmes, did not hold it against them. So they decided, we like what you bring and can bring to this team, our culture in our locker room, so on and so forth. So we're bringing you back on another deal, or another year rather. So good for Emmanuel. I hope he recovers well enough to where when he does come back or is able to come back, he can be productive. Stay on the field for one, and if he stays on the field, he can be productive enough to where we can put players in their right spots. Because let's not forget, the reason, even though Cam Sutton got burned up a lot late in the year and in the playoffs, there was a reason why. Like, remember, he was supposed to be like one of the backup corners, like the cornerback 2 or 3 spot. But between CJ getting hurt and then Mosley getting hurt, Cam was forced into that spot. Sutton was forced into that spot. I felt though he held his own, even though there was weaknesses that got exploited, he still held his own. And thankfully had gotten some help when CJ did return from injury. But I think having those 2 players back as well adds to your depth first and foremost, and adds to the talent level. It gives you the upgrade that you were hoping for going into last season. And I think to continue more with that upgrade, you got to still make more moves. And one of those moves was, frankly, that they decided to not tender the contract of Jerry Jacobs, which means what? He's going to become a free agent, which means what? He's likely going to be signing somewhere else. So much so that the writing was on the wall that he posted a goodbye letter of sorts to the city of Detroit in a tweet earlier this afternoon, I believe, or yesterday. So that was pretty much the confirmation that, yep, both sides will be going in their own separate ways and separate directions. Wish them the best of luck. But now it leads to a situation of, okay, you know what you have currently, what you have done, right? Because let's not forget, they also released Tracy Walker. They've just non-tendered Jerry Jacobs. They've just re-signed Emmanuel Mosley. You know what they have currently with Kirby Joseph and Brian Branch. I would assume based on what I'm looking at, they would probably looking to bring back CJ on another 1 year deal, maybe a 2 year deal, because they value his depth and his production to that locker room and to that team on the field as well, that they'll be looking to try to bring him back. But in terms of now what it leads to, what do you do in the draft? Assuming, now granted, one option though, before we get to the draft, one option that I've been seeing being discussed and talked about almost on end between fans and reporters is, why not L'Jarius Sneed? Right? Because the Chiefs, they put a tag on Sneed, with the way it was being reported and discussed, it was with the possibility of, hey, they may be looking to do a tag and trade, whereas they'll tag him and then they're going to trade him to another team that will pay him that extension for that long term deal. So, and what I've been hearing, what I've been reading, was that the Lions was one of those teams potentially being in that interested pool into what they can get for L'Jarius Sneed. So that could be another option that they may go after before we even get to the draft, or if they use one of those draft picks. Because let's not forget, they do have 4 of the first 100 picks in this year's draft. If we know Brad Holmes, he's going to use those picks for all he's worth, whether it's trading up, trading down, trading out, or using it to get a player that you really want from another organization. He'll do it. So, in terms of though, what does this mean for the draft? Well, let's assume that they don't get Snead, right? That they decided we've already brought back Mosley, we're gonna bring back CJ on a 1 or 2 year deal. We like what we got out of the Kirby and Brian Branch and so on and so forth. Oh, excuse me, how can I forget about Melifonwu? Excuse me, please. Especially with how he came on as of late last season with his blitzing and his terms of making big plays at big moments. Forgive me for forgetting about him. But anyway, back to what these potential draft prospects at corner. Which by the way, side note, I think this could be a potential reoccurring segment that we do in the lead up to the draft. Look at potential positions of need that the Lions should improve upon, /upgrade, /strengthen. And for this week, we're looking at cornerback, and obviously based on the moves that they've made as of late around their secondary. And here are at least 3 guys that I'm looking at that the Lions could consider either at 29 or even in the 2nd or 3rd round. I'm looking at Quinion Mitchell out of Toledo. I'm looking at Kool-Aid McKinstry out of Alabama. And I am, of course, looking from our very own Wolverines, Mikey Sanders still.
I knew it.
I have to, because I've seen Sanders still with my own 2 eyes all year. I am not alone in thinking this thought. People would make the connection of, hey, he may not exactly be in a position of need, considering he's a nickel back. We've probably got enough nickel backs already, but he is versatile. He is a player that has instinct to make the right play at the right time at the right moment. He is incredibly intelligent and smart. He is a true out and out leader on that field, week in and week out. There is a reason he is one of the captains, and to me, he has the type of personality and conviction to where if you're Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell, you want that and you will need that in your locker room and on your football field. So I've made my case for Mike Sanders still. Now, frankly, if another team snatches him before we get the chance to do it, hey, I would tip my hat to him. But I put Sanders still. I put Quinion Mitchell because I think his play, his size, and in terms of his overall makeup, fits with what this administration wants out of its players. And also, I put in Kool-Aid McKinstry because I think he's another player that fits that formula. And also, let's not forget, as what we've seen in the past 3 drafts now under Brad Holmes, the Lions love themselves some Bama boys. Okay, they love getting themselves some bad boys from Alabama. They got Jamison Williams, they got Jahmyr Gibbs, they got Brian Branch. Okay, who's to say that they wouldn't be interested in getting Kool-Aid McKinstry? I'm just saying. And the reason why I'm saying this is because it has been reported that the Lions have had formal meetings with both Quinion Mitchell and Kool-Aid McKinstry. Now, I'm not certain or aware if they have had a meeting of sorts with Sanders still, or if they're going to, or if they're going to be, whether that's between now and either his pro day or the draft or whatever. But I'm just saying, between the names I just mentioned, between Quinion Mitchell and Kool-Aid McKinstry, I do believe Mike Sanders still should be another name on that list in terms of big board prospects for your secondary.
Oh man, yes. That's been our talk of the Lions for the past year or two, and it still needs to be constantly addressed every like periodically.
I agree. Despite and by the way, you've been more, and I give you to your credit, you've been more adamant on your side of the debate of, a secondary has to do their job, and I agree.
Covering the wide receivers, yes.
Yeah, making the right plays, making the right coverage, not getting burned and beat all the time. I get that, and this is why this is why you need to get the right players that fit not only your system but knows how to make those plays at the right time. You got a guy like Brian.
Play the ball, not the body.
You got a guy like Brian Branch who can be a run stopper, a hard hitter, and a guy that gets you key timely interceptions. You have a guy in Ife Melifonwu who can be your extra blitzer, bring the heat,
multi-purpose.
Yes, and frankly, that was much badly needed because your defensive line outside of Aiden Hutchinson was not getting anything done, and I'll get to that in just a second. And as terms of a prelude as to what we're going to be looking at, if not next time, then surely soon thereafter, but before the draft.
In fact, let's address the defensive line next on our next episode because
I have no problems with
that's equally as important.
Yes, and I would argue from my side, from my perspective, it's more important based on the current history, past history that I've seen, not just within the past decade, but also just recently with how teams have been able to make themselves contenders, if not outright Super Bowl champions, based in part making investments to key parts and aspects of their defensive line. And I'll be more than happy to get into that next week for certain.
Yes, let's please do that. In other Lions news, the Lions extend Shane Silstra and are expected to extend Amon-Ra St. Brown for 4 years.
Oh, worth noting on that tag on terms of Zylstra, I did remember reading that they will be using one of their tender options on Brock Wright. So you can also pencil in Brock Wright as
I saw that on Instagram.
Yeah, as returning for next year. So Brock Wright will be back. Shane Zylstra's back. Obviously, James Mitchell will be back. That's their 3 guys for development. Unfortunately, Zach Ertz will not be back. I believe he signed with the Commanders, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, Brock Wright. Well, let's keep our eyes on him, huh?
Yeah, because frankly, he's our at the moment he's our TE2 behind Laporta.
Yes, that's true. Yeah, a good backup to Laporta.
But as we're talking about with Amon-Ra.
Yep. That one of their 2 priorities is to re-sign him and Jared Goff.
Mm-hmm.
Don't forget.
For sure.
Also, one more thing. The Lions have signed special teams man Jalen Reeves-Maybin to a 2-year contract worth $7.5 million to $8 million, according to Eric Woodyard of ESPN.
That's well earned and well deserved, and frankly, no problems with that. We've seen Reeves-Maybin making his strides in development because I believe wasn't he brought in originally under Dan Quinn and Matt Patricia? Bob Quinn, excuse me. Under Quinn and Patricia. Yeah, wasn't he brought in under Quinn and Patricia?
He might have been, yeah. But
right, so he's been there through that tenure. I don't know if he was released or whatever, or he stayed the long way, but still, he's been here the whole time.
Dan Campbell and his coaching staff had actually utilized him better than Quinn Trisha.
Very much, and it showed because not only was he making was the key guy to look at in terms of their special teams fakes, like the fake punt runs, the fake punt passes, and everything. He was also a guy when it came up when they needed depth or they needed someone to step up, play defense for them, and actually made some key plays at the linebacker spot. So much so that he was named one of the captains. So again, this is a team that knows their identity, knows their culture, knows who they are, knows the type of players that they want and need, and they're showing that by bringing back guys like Brock Wright, bringing back guys, like Mosley, bringing back guys like Jalen Reeves-Maybin. And we're gonna see once they eventually do re-sign Goff and St. Brown. And frankly, the way that it's currently positioned with their cap, they're gonna do it in the right way, that the way they'll get these deal done and still have some money left over to probably go and sign somebody if they so see it fit for this year. Because I think Goff, I would say, let's say he gets even close to 50. Let's say he gets like 40, 45, dare I say 46, 47. That's still lower than what many of these quarterbacks are going to be making, and certainly going to be far lower than, say, a Dak Prescott, who's going to be resetting the market with his next deal. So you're still getting, in some ways, a home count discount to where you can go apply that money to other aspects and other needed areas. And same thing goes for Amon Ra, especially if you give him the right amount of terms, the right amount of years. It could be 3 years, could be 4 years, but the general consensus is that the projected salary should be within the range of 26 to 28, maybe $29 million a year. Uh, Frankly, in my opinion, some will say, "Oh, that's you're overpaying almost $30 million for a slot receiver." No, no, what you are paying is top end, top dollar money for a top dollar player. Okay, Amon-Ra St. Brown, with his route running, with his speed, with his uh, after catch ability to extend plays, extend drives, make things happen, and also be a usage back in sorts, emergency situations in terms of being a running back. They've used him in ways similar to how the Rams have been using Cooper Kupp, or to an extent the way the 49ers have been using Christian McCaffrey, and before him Deebo Samuel. So Amon-Ra St. Brown is one of their absolute core pieces to this team. He is someone to where if he goes down, we're in trouble. So I'm glad that he's being rewarded. I'm glad that his play and his effort and his hard work is being rewarded. And frankly, I'm glad we're being able to lock him up. And I don't think the price is that steep. You're still on mute.
No, I had a cough. Something running
Gotcha.
down my throat. But anyway, yeah, absolutely. Amon-Ra St. Brown deserves that. So those are all the teams we covered. Now, what all did we learn?
We've learned frankly that the Red Wings are just going through a valley in my view of what they're going through in the season. It's an 82 game season. You're going to have moments where you're up, moments where you're down. But what we learned is that the Red Wings are still in a good position to make the playoffs, despite of what's happened the last few games, and despite of Dylan Larkins going down with injury. We've learned that the Pistons have been trying to commit themselves to making as much progress as possible in any key aspect, wherever it may be, whether it be turnovers, whether it be getting rebounds, whether it be limiting second chance points, or here in this case, holding opponents to under 113 points. Well, I've always said this: any progress is good progress, and we're seeing that right here with the Pistons in little bits of steps, and that we've learned also that yes, Cade Cunningham and Jaden Ivey can definitely play together in the same backcourt. And we've also learned that the Lions, they're making moves. They're making moves in terms of recognizing that their secondary,
And keeping valuable players too,
for sure. But
like
what the
Jalen
Lions,
Reeves-Maybin.
for sure. But the main aspect here is they recognize there's some things they got to do in their defense, particularly in their secondary, because while they're trying to do this same thing last year, it didn't quite work out as planned, and it led to some things biting them in the ass in the end, particularly preventing them from going to the Super Bowl. Now they want to look into shoring that up. not just with their secondary, but also I believe in other aspects on their defense, as in fighting another guy on that defensive line that can cause havoc and also take pressure off of Aiden Hutchinson, while also allowing Aiden to get more and more opportunities to do what he does best.
Exactly. Aiden Hutchinson can't do it by himself. So we talked about who the Lions should draft at cornerback, and next week we're going to address the defensive lineman and linebacker situation. By the way, well, defensive lineman, probably linebacker the episode thereafter.
Actually, what I was thinking of, these are specific areas of most important need and attention. And while linebacker, could be one, you can argue that they've done a good job with making developments on that end, because what Alex Anzalone was significant improvement in 23 than he was in 22. Jack Campbell, I thought, had a decent rookie season to where I should expect to see him make another leap in year 2. And Malcolm Rodriguez, even though he took a step back on the defense a little bit, he was shown that he can be used in many versatile ways, even on the offense as a backup fullback. So there's ways that linebacking core, that linebacker room has grown and developed in this year to where, yeah, you could still want to add some tweaks, but to me, the most important thing you got to focus on is that D line. That's where you got to really focus on, outside of the secondary, of course. But to me, the main area is, or at least one of the main areas, should be fixing that D line. And also, I would say, you know what, consider adding more strength to your offensive line. But we'll get into that in the weeks ahead.
All right. That's all of what we've learned in this episode of the Michigan Sports Truth Podcast. 30 live viewers in this episode. Peak live viewers. Hokey smokes. I wish I could. I wish StreamYard could give at least me the total of total live viewers after this one's all said and done. But that's another episode of the Michigan Sports Truth Podcast in the can. I'm Taylor Phillips. He's Ed Smith. Follow the Michigan Sports Truth Podcast on X, Instagram, and TikTok at Michigan_Truth, and like its Facebook page. Subscribe to its YouTube channel at the Michigan Sports Truth Podcast. Like our videos and turn on all notifications on the bell icon. Follow it and listen to it in audio form on Spreaker, and download the Spreaker mobile app. Create an account to follow our show and listen to it. Listen to each of our episodes. Follow me on X, TikTok, and Instagram, and YouTube at DT2Phillips. Follow Ed Smith on X, Instagram, TikTok, Twitch, and YouTube at EdSmith313. Business shoutouts go to Athletico Physical Therapy on Woodward and Ferndale, the B4 Foundation, Cali Tickets. Call Mark Goldman at 877-225-8425 or visit CaliTickets.com. Creative Embroidery of Cadillac for designing the Michigan Sports Truth Podcast logo on my long sleeve shirt and t-shirt. Cuts by Melanie in Lake City. I might have to get a haircut like 2 weeks or so. The JC Youth Foundation. Let's roll with it. Rolled ice cream in Cadillac. Flavor of the week, banana hazelnut. Last week's flavor of the week was Payday. The Payday candy bar, you know. Northern Star, follow Let's Roll With It Rolled Ice Cream in Cadillac on TikTok at The Food Mafia LLC and on Instagram at The Food Mafia Rolled Ice Cream. Northern Star Event Rentals in Cadillac, 231-884-8195, and on Facebook. Union Barber in Birmingham, United Food Service Solutions of Grand Ledge, Michigan, United Mobile Power Wash and Dry Ice Works in Southfield, and Well-Being with Catherine Palms in Traverse City and Suttons Bay. Our next episode, next Thursday at 10:30 p.m. For Ed Smith, I'm Taylor Phillips, signing off. But remember, we always observe and detect truth about Michigan sports because the truth is out there. Stay on the lookout. Hit them with a hind.
Take care and stay safe, everybody.